Story 1. Having experienced both being overweight and underweight in my short life, I have learned that anyone can be criticized for anything they do if they are overweight, including efforts to lose weight. Story 2. Going to the gym is interesting because I have noticed that true gym enthusiasts are excited to see larger individuals come in and lose weight. Story 3. Just eating. The answer is eating. Only skinny people are entitled to eat. Overweight individuals can have dry lettuce only, or else they should be ashamed of themselves. I was the overweight kid in the 1980s and early 1990s when there was just one overweight kid per school grade. No matter what I ate for lunch, I was ridiculed for it. So I just stopped eating at school. Then my mom thought the reason I was overweight was because I was eating so much after school and at dinner, so she started drastically limiting what I was allowed to eat at home. That really solidified my unhealthy relationship with food for the rest of my life. Good times. Story 4. Enjoying food in general. A thin woman devours a burger and it's praised as, "I love a woman not afraid to eat." When a heavier woman merely looks at a slice of bread, the response is all about thinking about your health. Story 5. Table manners or the lack thereof. A thin person can eat like a feral raccoon and it is considered cute, but a larger person would receive looks of disgust. Story 6. Being unique or quirky, especially in terms of clothing, can be charming. For example, a slim girl in a playful dress with lobsters on it is cute and quirky, while a heavier person may receive strange looks. I once considered buying a dress with lobsters on it, but talked myself out of it. Story 7. Anything can be enjoyable, such as eating, dancing, laughing, singing, exercising, walking, taking selfies, standing in line, or simply existing in public. However, being overweight makes me feel ashamed to be alive. Story 8. Just about everything. The world wrongly judges you based on your weight if you are overweight. I would also add that shaming occurs regardless of body type. People believe it is acceptable to comment on someone's weight if they are skinny, but it is not. It is not okay to comment on someone's weight, whether they are skinny or heavy. Story 9. When I took an international class in the Philippines, despite being an average size for an American, my questions were considered elementary and common sense. However, when my smaller classmates repeated the exact same question moments later, they received praise for asking insightful topics. I suppose being larger means being perceived as less intelligent there. Story 10. Eating a lot and being skinny is often described as having an excellent metabolism. However, when someone is overweight, it can become a significant issue. Story 11. Cosplaying or any other geek or fandom behavior is often viewed differently based on body type. A slender girl who cosplays might be perceived as cool and attractive, while a larger person engaging in the same activity may be unfairly labeled as cringe. Story 12. Existing in peace. People of all sizes should be allowed to exist without others interfering with opinions about their bodies. Story 13. Having an illness or disorder not associated with your weight can be challenging. I work with chronic pain, and many people are dismissed due to having extra weight. Does losing weight help? Sure. Is it the cure or reason for chronic illness? No. People are often advised to lose weight, believing their symptoms will disappear. This is simply not true. Story 14. Having a sex drive and being sexual in any capacity is natural. Thin people are viewed as individuals with legitimate desires and needs, which is undoubtedly true. In contrast, fat people are often seen as jokes, and their desires and needs are perceived as undesirable. This bias is prevalent in media portrayals where a fat man or woman has a crush on a thin main character, who typically rejects them, often in a dismissive manner that suggests the fat person is socially inept or unaware. Fat men are depicted as creepy, while fat women are portrayed as desperate or merely used and discarded. Story 15. Literally existing involves eating, wearing specific clothes, sitting at a desk job all day, and indulging in treats such as cake. Story 16. Flirting. People who are overweight often have to flirt harder to get their point across and may sometimes appear desperate for their efforts, while thinner individuals can make eye contact effortlessly, signaling the start of the game. Sexism plays a significant role in this dynamic. Story 17. It's like the one thing everyone agrees on, that all overweight individuals are unattractive, and it's perfectly acceptable to say that to them. Public service announcement. It's not. Story 18. Dancing. The first thing I noticed when I gained weight was the bullying I received for dancing and enjoying myself. People often dislike seeing happy, overweight individuals. Story 19. Being alive, I was a healthy weight and then thin until my early 30s when medication caused weight gain. I have experienced it from both sides. People often ignore you and treat you poorly when you are overweight, even slightly overweight. This holds true even if you are otherwise considered conventionally attractive. Suddenly, I became invisible. I realized that people, especially men, are not always nice and friendly. Women also do not seem to want you around. You lose almost all social standing. Story 20. Hitting on someone who is clearly better looking can often lead to negative reactions. I often notice people looking with disgust when an overweight person finds them attractive. Story 21. I have a heart condition at 37. Everyone who reads that pictures me as being overweight, even though I have no significant risk factors or possible preventive measures. I guess the ratio of sympathy to judgment varies dramatically with body size. Story 22. Just about everything is significant, especially if you are in middle or high school. People would scoff and giggle when I got up to use the pencil sharpener. Story 23. Having chronic pain is challenging. If you are thin, healthcare providers will try to understand the cause, but if you are overweight, they often advise you to lose weight. Story 24. Having an attractive or fit partner can lead to negative comments. Often, when a larger person is with someone on social media, there are insulting remarks aimed at them, suggesting their partner can do better or that it's unfair for them to be with a fat, lazy slob. This negativity occurs even in moments like engagement photos. There are also inappropriate comments about how certain races only accept fat women. Story 25. Eating fast food in public places or even running or going to the gym often attracts attention when a heavier person arrives. Story 26. Working out in a gym can be rewarding. If you are slim, you may receive praise for your fit body and commitment. However, if you are overweight, you may face ridicule for your appearance, even while working hard to improve your health in public. Story 27. Changing shirts in front of people can be challenging. You might take off an overshirt and have a tank top or undershirt on underneath. If you feel fit, it's more comfortable. However, feeling overweight can create insecurity. Story 28. I had a girl mumble that fat people are incompetent when she ordered her cake wrong and insisted I was the one at fault. Because she is thin and pretty and I am fat and unremarkable. A middle-aged woman with children in a store told me I was too fat to wear the dress I had on, which was just a cute sundress, nothing special or revealing. Less than a month ago, a guy yelled at me from his truck, calling me a derogatory name as I walked through a parking lot. I am actively working on my health and weight with a legitimate weight loss doctor. But comments like this make me feel hopeless. I sometimes feel that people would rather I be gone because I am an eyesore to them. Story 29. Diet soda. I have seen many comments online such as, "Oh yeah, I'm sure that Diet Coke will help when you're eating McDonald's. Can't people just like the taste of it?" Cutting calories from regular soda likely helps with weight management a little. Story 30. Dancing. I see many online videos of dancers, and the comments on the heavier dancers are often more unkind. Story 31. Using the scooter at the grocery store was necessary for me after my surgery when I couldn't walk. Everyone was kind and helpful, which is not always the case in similar situations. Story 32. I don't know, but if I exist as a thin person, it feels like everyone makes sure to tell me I'm too thin, that I must be an addict, or that I'd be pretty if I ate more. However, I have also heard the opposite from the same people telling someone to eat less, exercise, and that they'd be attractive if they lost weight. I have decided that it's the person saying those things who has a problem with their self-image and needs to bring everyone down around them, or it's drunk older men. They have a lot to say, yet no one asked for their opinion. Story 33. Being lazy or not physically active. In my experience as someone who has always been naturally skinny, I noticed that men often care about women being active, but it didn't seem to matter when it came to me. Some would even tell me directly that I didn't need to work out or go to the gym, which I found somewhat amusing. However, I am extremely inactive and weak. Story 34. If you go shopping in your pajamas, you are cool. If you go shopping in your pajamas, it may indicate poor hygiene and low self-esteem. Story 35. Everyone talks about eating in public, but as a person with a larger body, I believe it is generally accepted and people do not really care. However, eating a large Renaissance fair-style turkey leg in public feels off-limits. I once ate a turkey leg in public, and it resembled a bear mauling a carcass. It was not a pretty sight. Story 36. I have experienced both heavy and underweight phases. When I was heavy, I was hardly noticed by anyone. When I was thin, I was often flirted with, but I struggled with sadness and judgment from social insecurities. Story 37. Eating in public involves making choices like ordering fries instead of salad, buying regular soda instead of diet soda, and wearing a tank top. Story 38. Exercising in a top that resembles a sports bra or a strappy crop top that exposes your stomach. Story 39. Eating fast food. I'm skinny, so I can eat all I want at McDonald's with no judgment. 2 soft serves? No problem. Story 40. As someone who used to weigh 215 pounds at 4 feet 11 inches, I experienced poor mental health. As a larger individual, my depression and anxiety were assumed to be treatable through diet and exercise. Unfortunately, people often do not take your mental health seriously when you are overweight. It turns out I had antibodies for an autoimmune disease that was causing my hormones to become imbalanced. Story 41. Having migraines has been a challenge for me. I used to be overweight and my migraines were blamed on that. I lost a significant amount of weight, but the medication I received for migraines did not help, and my spine is still in poor condition. Now that I have gained weight again, I am terrified to see my general practitioner, even though I know I need to. Story 42. Being happy seems to be a trigger for some people. Apparently, if you are bigger, you are only allowed to be sad. Story 43. Feeling skinny versus feeling fat. On one end, you might come across as vain and self-centered. On the other end, you could be perceived as delusional. Story 44. Having a big appetite. I am a short, petite woman. No one judges me harshly for eating a lot. However, if I weren't so thin, I would be judged as gluttonous. Story 45. I noticed that in a family with large women and small men, second portions of dinner were tolerated and even applauded for the thinner members, while the larger ones would receive looks of disapproval for going for more food. Story 46. Sitting in random places, people would look at me like I was crazy if I sat at a table 7 years ago. Today, I could stand on it and do a flip, and they would find it funny. Everything you do is judged differently when you're overweight. It's quite hurtful. It does not matter how skinny you get. The feeling remains. Story 47. I dated a model who used to be overweight. This doesn't answer your question directly, but it relates to it. She mentioned that she faced criticism no matter what she did. When she was overweight, people criticized her for it. The same thing happened when she was thin. They claimed she was succumbing to social pressure. So do you. Forget what people think unless their opinions are harmful. Story 48. Trying to explain your body isn't your choice. I have hypothyroidism and take medication. When I was off my medication, I gained some weight. When people asked me what happened, they seemed to not understand and thought I had become lazy. I cannot medically change my metabolism. However, if a thin person is asked, "Why are you so thin?" and they mention a medical condition, it is generally accepted. Story 49. Having bad eating habits can lead to negative perceptions. When you are plus size, people often react with disgust even for small indulgences, like nibbling on a chocolate bar. However, when someone with a curvy figure or a model physique engages in a large meal, they are often celebrated for having a healthy appetite. Story 50. Having an illness or using a wheelchair can lead people to assume it is self-inflicted due to being overweight. Story 51. Engaging in various relationships and expressing confidence in oneself can take many forms. This includes performing arts such as dancing, speaking assertively, embracing one's body, wearing revealing clothing, and flirting. Public displays of affection and enjoying meals in social settings are also common. It is important to feel comfortable in your own skin, stand up for your beliefs, and maintain physical fitness. Participating in online discussions and focusing on personal strength are valuable too. Choices around parenthood, whether to have children or not, and personal preferences in relationships shouldn't be judged. Everyone has the right to enjoy meals alone or with friends, regardless of social expectations. Story 52. I was completely invisible when I weighed 50 pounds more than I do now. I was both amazed and disgusted by how much things have changed. Story 53. Pregnant skinny women are often considered cute. However, opinions can differ regarding larger women, who may be perceived as carrying a beach ball or resembling a whale. While this viewpoint is unfair, it persists. Story 54. Not being excessively feminine or masculine. If you are overweight, you need to fit into one of two categories: a 1950s pinup or a burlesque performer with full makeup, or a rugged outdoorsman with a big beard and masculine wardrobe. No plain t-shirts and shorts, messy buns, and no makeup at a retail store. You are going to face criticism. Being injured or ill is automatically attributed to your weight. If you need a mobility aid, you are judged harshly. I broke my leg in an accident and received extra negative looks for months. Every prescription you pick up is assumed to be either for weight management or to promote weight loss, which is also unacceptable. If you leave a pharmacy without purchasing a weight loss product or something similar, you can feel the stares. Having a sex life is also scrutinized. Story 55. Getting a diet soda with your meal can be viewed differently. For a thin person, it may be a way to avoid consuming extra calories, while for someone who is overweight, it might be seen as unhelpful for weight loss. Story 56. I have experienced both being conventionally attractive and being overweight. When I was thinner, people were nicer to me, engaged in conversation more, had better attitudes, and often complimented me. I even received discounts. Now that I am overweight, interactions have changed dramatically. People are shorter with me, and I can't remember the last time I received a compliment in public. Society tends to be unkind to overweight individuals. Story 57. I feel like I received different reactions when I said I loved baking while I was overweight compared to now when I'm at a healthier weight. I would have been embarrassed to call myself a food enthusiast back then, but now I see it as a hobby that is acceptable for me to enjoy. That being said, I am unsure how much of that comes from people judging me and how much is internalized fat phobia. Story 58. Wearing clothes is a personal choice. However, wearing leggings and a crop top as a larger individual can be seen as unacceptable, even if the clothing covers the skin adequately. Story 59. When you are slim, eating a large meal in public is often seen as acceptable. But if you are overweight, people may judge you for the same action, despite the fact that everyone enjoys food regardless of body size. Story 60. Honestly, I enjoy everything. Sleeping, relaxing, eating, wearing nice clothes, and looking good. Story 61. Literally everything, as the comments here show. I have been on both ends of the spectrum, obese and rail thin. I received rude comments in both states, but the comments I encountered when I was obese were far crueler. No matter what you do, it's wrong. Eat a cheeseburger? Yeah, checks out. Eat a salad? How many pounds of lettuce does it take to fill you up? Wear a nice outfit? Do you really think a skirt is a good idea? Wear sweats and a hoodie? Typical fat slob. Can't even be bothered to put on real clothes. The one that gets me the most, though, is exercising or doing anything physical. When a fit person works out, goes hiking, goes dancing, etc., people look at that and think, yeah, that makes sense. They're fit because they are active. They see it as a respectable thing. But when overweight people engage in those same activities, people mock them. An obese person out for a walk? How very dare they? A fat person dancing? Disgusting. A chubby person out for a bike ride? Embarrassing. The same people who dislike overweight individuals also seem to hate it when those individuals do things that could potentially help them lose weight. Story 62. A slender man farts in public. Everyone, Ha ha ha. Dude. LOL. A heavier man farts in public. Everyone. Jesus. You disgusting person. Go away. Story 63. When I first adopted a plant-based diet years ago, a restaurant worker said to me, "You're thick for a vegan." It implied that overweight individuals do not make conscious dietary choices. Story 64. Being different. I've had to start losing weight because people began treating me as if I were mentally ill and unappealing when I reached the overweight category of body mass index. Now that I'm losing weight and looking good again, I'm suddenly seen as interesting and unique once more. Story 65. Sighing. Oh, this has so many calories. Over a burger or something. Slim individuals are often assured that they look attractive no matter what. If you are overweight, you may be subjected to judgmental looks. Story 66. Health problems. When I was thin, which is the root cause of most of my issues stemming from anorexia in my teens, everyone was kind, supportive, and listened to my concerns. The moment I gained weight, I was regarded as a disgusting beast who made themselves ill. Story 67. Different perspective. One of the few good aspects of my family's genetics is that we are all tall and slender. The number of times I was called anorexic while growing up is astonishing. Yet society accepted this behavior, while calling someone overweight was not tolerated. No one should be calling anyone names. Story 68. Tight clothes can be problematic. If you are plus-sized, wearing the same skimpy clothing that smaller girls wear may not be beneficial for anyone. Story 69. People are commenting that I need to eat more and gain weight. Why is it acceptable to comment on my body and tell me what I should do with my weight if I am thin but not if I am overweight? Story 70. Providing health information to others. An overweight person may understand how to be fit, but they often do not apply that knowledge in their own lives. Story 71. Eating. I'm slim and work out, and I always feel anxious about taking seconds when I really like the food. I feel like I'm being judged, and I can't imagine how much worse it must feel when you're not slim. Story 72. Exercising fills me with anxiety whenever I go to the gym or run outside. I know I'm a little bigger than your average woman, but there's no need to stare at me as if I'm some kind of freak. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.